Welcome back to High Stakes. Elevate your game by subscribing to our channel so you never miss our daily content. For exclusive access to our premium betting picks, join our Patreon. Find the link in the comments section below. Stay ahead with High Stakes. Army versus Florida Atlantic. Army's offense has shown significant strength on the ground, boasting the second highest rushing total in the FBS with 375 yards per game and an impressive 6.7 yards per rushing attempt. Meanwhile, their passing game has struggled, ranking 133rd in the FBS with just 57 yards per game. Additionally, the Black Knights have demonstrated discipline, committing only 5 yards in penalties in their season opener, which came on the heels of a total yardage output of 432, indicating a well-balanced attack. Army's performance against the spread was decent last season, covering the spread 4 times in 11 games. On the road, they were particularly successful, covering in 3 of their 6 away games. Additionally, they showed a knack for overcoming adversity, winning twice ATS when facing spreads of 3.5 points or greater. With this trend in mind, it's reasonable to favor the Black Knights to cover the spread again, making them the top pick in this matchup. Florida Atlantic's offense struggled to start the season, with a passing game that averages just 116 yards per game, ranking 121st in college football. Meanwhile, their rushing attack has been equally ineffective, averaging 132 yards per game and ranking 89th nationally. However, the Owls' defense has shown some promise, particularly in their home opener where they allowed just 16 points, tying them for 68th nationally in points against. The Florida Atlantic Owls have struggled to cover the spread in recent games, having only done so once in their last 5 home games. Additionally, they have a poor overall record against the spread, having covered in just 4 of their 12 games last season. However, they did manage to cover the spread in their season opener. Florida Atlantic University has been a team that leans toward lower scoring games, going under the posted total in 5 of their 12 games last season, including 5 under results in their last 6 home games. Their most recent contest also finished under. On the other side, Army's profile suggests higher scoring affairs, with 2 of their 4 away games last season exceeding totals and 2 of 5 games going over following a win. Most recently, the Black Knights went over the posted total in their season opener. Given FAU's penchant for under-point totals and Army's for overs, the over bet looks to be the wise choice for this American Conference showdown. Akron versus Rutgers. In the 2023 season, Akron's skilled players struggled significantly, averaging a touchdown every 25.7 receptions, which ranked as the 6th worst among FBS teams, while their wide receivers found the end zone once every 33.8 catches, placing them 3rd worst in that category, with an average of 11.5 receptions per touchdown across the league. The team managed to accumulate 2,355 yards on 257 receptions, yielding a meager 9.2 yards per reception, marking them as the 2nd worst in the FBS, while their running backs averaged just 66.1 rushing yards per game since 2022, also 2nd worst, compared to the FBS average of 128.4. In contrast, Rutgers' defense was impressive, allowing only 10.3 yards per reception, ranking them tied for the 3rd best in the Big Ten. Akron's defense demonstrated several areas of strength in the 2023 season, including a 56% completion percentage allowed, which ranked 12th best in the FBS and 4th best among non-power conference teams. Additionally, the team held opponents to a mere 11% of tackles for loss in the red zone since 2022, tied for the 20th worst in FBS, and forced an average of 2.3 passing attempts per touchdown in the red zone, the 2nd worst among non-power conference teams. Furthermore, Akron's defense allowed a mere 129.2 yards from scrimmage per game to wide receivers, the 4th best among non-power conference teams and a significant improvement over the FBS average of 176.0. Rutgers' skilled players have struggled, averaging a mere 12.5 receptions per game since the 2022 season, making them the worst among power conference teams, with an average of 19.8 receptions per game across the league. However, the Scarlet Knights' skill players fared better in terms of yards per reception, averaging 19.1 yards per catch with over 10 yards to go in the 2023 season, the best among Big Ten teams. Despite this, Rutgers tight ends had a dismal season, with just 18 receptions in 12 games, the worst in the Big Ten. On the defensive side, Akron's defense allowed an average of 12.8 yards per reception to tight ends last season, ranking 22nd worst among FBS defenses. Rutgers' defense struggled in several areas in the 2023 season, including their inability to record a sack in the red zone, tied for the worst in the Power Conference and the FBS average, with 37 pass attempts without a sack. Additionally, the team allowed a completion percentage of 74% when opponents had over 10 yards to go, the worst in the Big Ten, and a significant departure from the FBS average of 56%. On the other hand, Rutgers' defense surprisingly excelled in limiting wide receivers, allowing just 118.7 yards per game, the second best in the FBS, and they tackled opponents for a loss on 13% of rushing attempts, the fourth worst in the Big Ten. Give the points and go with the Scarlet Knights in this matchup. Despite Rutgers' recent game against Howard falling short of the projected point total, their 2023 season saw them consistently exceed scoring expectations, with 7 of 13 games going over, including a strong 5-2 record in home games. On the other hand, Akron had a more balanced over-under record, going over in only 5 of 12 games. Their road performance was particularly underwhelming, with just 3 of 7 games surpassing the total. However, it's worth noting that Akron has historically performed well against the over after a loss, a trend reflected in their most recent game, which went over. Additionally, this game will be played at Rutgers, where they've historically leaned towards higher scoring affairs. Considering these factors, and the offensive capabilities of both teams, the over bet presents the most compelling option for bettors. Pittsburgh versus Cincinnati. This game is one featuring two teams with many similarities. New faces on the offense and work-in-progress defenses that struggled gravely last season. That is why this game opened with a small 2-point line favoring the home team, Cincinnati Bearcats. However, the value lies here on the Pittsburgh side of the ball, as the defense demonstrated in Week 1 that they are further along in their progress than Cincinnati is. This will allow the playmakers on Pitt's offense to take advantage. For instance, an FBS-level school, Kent State, was only able to amass a total of 212 yards against Pitt, including just 31 rushing. In contrast, Cincinnati allowed the FCS school, Towson, to have a great offensive showing with 438 yards, including a staggering 194 on the ground. Pitt's rushing attack will feast on that. Last season's game ended with Cincinnati defeating Pitt and the Bearcats' RB Corey Kiner running for 153 yards. Pitt's improved defense will look to come in stronger against the run this time around to deny a duplication of that effort. The coaching edge goes to Pitt as well, where Pat Narduzzi, outside of last year's disaster, is an experienced coach who knows what it takes to get the squad back on track. This will be important as Pitt failed to win a road game last season, going 0-6, albeit against top-tier opponents. Take the 2 with Pitt in this one, as the team will surprise many people with their ability to rebound from last year's nightmare. It's no surprise that the book has assigned the high total of 60 to this game, as each team's defenses are below Power Conference standards. Last season, Pitt allowed 27 points per game, while the Bearcats were worse with a 30-point average. However, this line is too large, as Pitt has improved their defense from last season. Additionally, Cincinnati is hyper-focused on their rushing attack, which will help shorten the game. In the game between these schools in 2023, the final score ended at 27-21, going over the total of 44.5, but short of the total listed this season, which is 15 points higher. This line has the book looking toward last week instead of the match between the schools last year. Go under the total. Troy versus Memphis. I'm not putting a ton of stock in Memphis' 40-0 win over FCS North Alabama. While it was nice for them to post a shutout, the level of competition doesn't resemble anything near what the Tigers will face moving forward. I mean, let's not forget that the Tigers were 96th in scoring defense just a year ago, conceding 30.0 points per game. So, forgive me if I'm not convinced that they've completely turned things around. With that being said, I think it's worth taking the points with Troy in this spot. We're getting nearly 3 touchdowns against a defense that gave up 30.0 points per game a season ago. Furthermore, it's not like Troy looked bad in their opener against Nevada. Sure, they lost 28-26, but they fought the whole game and had a chance to tie the game with just 0:21 on the clock in the fourth quarter. Coach Jared Parker has infused some life into this program, and the polls agree as Troy is predicted to finish second in the Sun Belt this season, coaches poll. We'll probably see a ton of scoring in this game, but I think Troy can keep pace. I do put some weight on the fact that Memphis dropped 40 points on their FCS opponent in their opener. Anything less would have been disappointing, as this offense was a top-tier unit a season ago, averaging 38.0 points per contest. That was the 7th best mark in the nation. The Tigers also used 70.5 possessions per game last season, 45th, which signals to me that they enjoy pushing the pace and moving quickly. Ultimately, I think Memphis is going to find its points. This is still a top-tier offense at the Group of 5 ranks. And, as I mentioned above, I'm just not sure that their defense is going to make a complete 180 from last season. Troy showed fight in their opener, and more importantly, they scored 26 points on 391 yards. That shows enough competence to me that they'll do their part in getting this game over the total.